Chemistry, international studies, and anthropology. Are there any connections? First off, we are going to examine how anthropology relates to international studies degree, i.e., international relations. International studies and culture anthropology, which is one of the five subfields of anthropology, sometimes can mirror one another in their case studies so closely that it's sometimes hard for people to distinguish between the two. Cultural anthropology is the closest field, but the other four subfields of anthropology can be found throughout the field of international relations. The major difference is that with international relations, data is viewed through a more political lens, and with culture anthropology focuses more on the cultural aspects. Both studies examine, through fieldwork, small groups of people that are thought to be disappearing or perhaps will disappear in the near future. Quantitative data analysis is used throughout both case studies, and each field draws upon the other's data to support and examine their own case studies. Both examine and consider the impact that the outside world is having on these remaining indigenous groups through the process known as globalization. Though the objectives may differ in each field due to the lens the data is viewed through.
Now we are going to look at how chemistry relates to anthropology. When I first learned about anthropology and what it means to be an anthropologist in middle school, I was fascinated. Studying different places and their current condition in their past, getting to travel, and expanding my knowledge of the world all were appealing to me. However, now my major is chemistry, and at first I did not think that chemistry and anthropology were related in many ways. I could not have been more incorrect. I was only looking at the surface of what the two majors and jobs are. Once I looked closer at what the two fields study and how they work together, I realized that there is a lot that the two have in common, and even in a small way they rely on each other. One of my chemistry professors once said that chemistry is the base from which everything else comes from. Biology, physics, environmental science, medicine, agriculture, geology, and forensics all rely on chemistry. But what does this have to do with anthropology? On a very basic level, chemistry is what allows anthropologists to do their job. Human ancestors used chemistry unknowingly to create food, poisons, and agricultural benefits like enriched soil. The people of the Amazon created terra preta between 450 BC and 950 AD. Terra preta, also known as dark earth or black soil, describes how it looks. Terra preta is dark brown to black and was created in the Amazon to provide fertile soil in otherwise unfertile land to grow crops. Upon analyzing the soil, an interesting mixture of charcoal, pottery shards, and other organic matter such as animal bones, plants, and feces were found to make up the terra preta. Chemistry allowed the Amazonians to create the terra preta, and it was chemistry that allowed anthropologists and scientists to discover the components of the black soil. Chemistry is used for more than just finding out how things were made several thousand years ago. Carbon dating, potassium argon dating, and rubidium strontium dating are all methods to determine the approximate date of an artifact that can be hundreds of thousands of years old. Chemistry is the base of this process. It was experiments in chemistry and knowledge of the chemical behavior of atoms and elements that allowed for these dating processes to be developed and used. There is one type of anthropology that is a combination of anthropology and chemistry: forensic anthropology. Forensic anthropologists are often used to identify human remains to aid in the investigation of law enforcement. They can run tests on remaining tissue to determine what types of chemicals or in the person before they died, if fragments or particles from an unknown object were left in the body, they can determine what the fragment or particle is made of. If there is a foreign substance on or in the remains, tests can determine what the substance is and if it is linked to the cause of death. After looking further into these two fields, is it really surprising that they relate to anthropology?
Anthropology is drawn upon heavily in international relations, as are other fields of studies. One reason is that international studies examines a range of issues like state sovereignty, international security, nationalism, eco-development, human security, and so forth. International studies and social anthropology also relates in that it is helpful knowing how groups behave and their cultures, so not to offend them with one's outside beliefs. The most obvious connection between the two subfields would be that both fields focus on cultures outside of their own.
It seems natural after thinking about anthropology and chemistry that anthropologists use chemistry, but it goes deeper than that. Remember the example of the terra preta? There is an example of our ancestors using chemistry and then anthropologists using chemistry to understand the chemistry that happened thousands of years ago. Chemistry provides a link to the past that is more than just what is visible. It allows the anthropologist to gain a better understanding of the smaller details that made up the culture of previous generations. Not only do anthropologists use chemistry, but new situations that anthropologists face in the field or in the lab can force the development of a new experiment that involves expanding chemistry and what it can do. The fact that anthropology relates to both international studies and chemistry is not that unusual. Anthropology covers many disciplines, but not always in the ways that you might imagine.